live from Los Angeles. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host and chief White House correspondent, Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Oh, happy day, everybody. It's happy over here. I'm happy because it's warmer here in Los Angeles than it is in Washington, D.C. It's also a little bit more sane here in Los Angeles than it is in Washington, D.C. I'll take it. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nicordelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast powered by KBLA Talk 1580, the only Black-owned and operated talk station west of the Mississippi. Did you know that? Well, if not, now you do. Also, while you're at it, be sure to pick up a copy of Kamala, the Motherland and Me. It's my new book. I'm calling it Required Reading for this inflection point in world history. That wasn't just a book that I wrote for the election season. I wrote that for history's sake. There it is on your screen, Kamala, the Motherland and Me, an invitation to challenge your assumptions about Madam Vice President, Africa, and ourselves. And with that, it's time for our national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, NBC News is reporting that hackers have accessed sealed testimony of the woman alleging Matt Gaetz had sex with her when she was 17. A hacker just yesterday gained access to a file containing the sworn depositions of two women involved in the investigation into Matt Gaetz, the former Florida congressman who is President-elect Trump's pick to lead the Justice Department. At least that's according to sources familiar with the matter. That file included the testimony of the women who alleges that she had sex with Gaetz when she was 17 years old in 2017, as well as the testimony of a second woman who said that she witnessed the encounter, and the information is unredacted according to the source. Attorney John Clune, who represents the woman alleging she had sex with Gaetz when she was 17, told NBC News, quotes, "We were informed last night by another law firm that an unauthorized user accessed a shared file with a number of confidential documents. Gaetz was investigated by the Justice Department in a case involving the alleged sex trafficking of a 17-year-old girl. Gaetz has always denied those allegations and has never been criminally charged." So we'll see what the United States Senate, what the Senate Republicans more specifically do with this new information. We know that a number of Senate Republicans had requested the ethics report on the matter. And ultimately, does this mean he gets confirmed as the Attorney General or not? Spare us the political theater. You going to do it or not? We'll keep you posted. Moving along, pressure is on to get Biden to fulfill a campaign promise before he leaves office. USA Today is reporting that it's been almost 10 years. Can you believe it? Almost 10 years since a white supremacist was welcomed into a South Carolina church and opened fire, killing 9 people in a Bible study, including the Reverend Sharon Risher's mother, 2 cousins, and childhood friend. When the shooter, Dylan Roof, was sentenced to death in 2017, Risher believed he deserved to die. Over time, she reconnected with her faith and found a way to forgive him. And as she learned about the broader issues with the death penalty, like the racial disparities and the lack of evidence that it deters violent crime, Risher helped launch a campaign to save not only Roof's life, but the lives of all the men on federal death row, including high-profile inmates like Deshakar Saranev, who was convicted in the Boston Marathon bombing, and Robert Bowers, the man sentenced to death for the 2018 mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. Reicher, who serves on the board of Death Penalty Action, hand-delivered a letter to the White House in June urging President Biden to commute their sentence, but received no response. The nonprofit she represents in another letter signed by 350 organizations after former President Trump won the election in November. They have not received a response. Her group plans to send a fourth letter next month as the window runs out for Biden to grant clemency. Opponents like Reicher hope to secure life sentences for these prisoners since the former reality TV star helped expedite 13 executions during the last 6 months of his first term. No federal executions have happened during Biden's presidency, which ends January 20th, 2025. And so we'll see if President Biden decides to step in. But if we know like they know, the clock is ticking. In other news, Jay-Z's Team Rock sues Kansas City for records related to alleged police misconduct. NBC News is also reporting this story here exclusively at that. Jay-Z's Team Rock, the social justice arm of his Rock Nation Entertainment Company, filed a lawsuit just yesterday claiming that Kansas City, Kansas has violated public records laws by failing to timely produce law enforcement records related to decades-long allegations of police abuse and misconduct. The suit, filed in Wyandotte County District Court in partnership with the Midwest Innocence Project, says that the Kansas City Police Department has not released substantial documents related to complaints pertaining to current and former detectives and officers after Rock Nation submitted a records request in November 2023. The complaint against the Kansas City Police Department and the unified government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, alleges that they have stonewalled the plaintiffs for almost a year. A part of its request under the Kansas City Open Records Act, the plaintiffs said that they were initially charged $2,200 in fees, which they agreed to pay. But to date, according to the plaintiffs, the 225 documents provided are mostly personnel locator records showing officers' shifts and assignments, and a smaller handful consisting of training materials and department policies. There has not been one document related to any complaint or investigation into even a single instance of misconduct by any member of the KCKPD. That's what the suit says. We'll see where that goes. Finally, the California governor will not review clemency for the Menendez brothers until the DA reviews the case. That's right. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he'll hold off making a clemency decision on the Menendez brothers murder case until incoming LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman reviews the nearly 35-year-old case. Brothers Eric and Lyle Menendez, who are both serving life sentences without parole for the brutal murder of their parents inside their Beverly Hills home, were convicted in 1996 of fatally shooting their parents after their highly publicized and televised first trial ended in a mistrial. Lyle was 21 and Eric was 18. They are now 56 and 53, respectively. You might remember in late October, LA County District Attorney George Gascon filed a recommendation in court to re-sentence the Menendez brothers, asking for the possibility of parole to be back on the table in light of new evidence. The penalty for 2 murders is 50 years to life in prison, but since the brothers were underage, they were under the age of 26 to be exact, at the time of the crime, Gascon said that they would be immediately eligible for parole right away under California law. And so we're going to see where that goes. But when we come forward, I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Dr. Mina Pratt. She is a scholar, she's an activist, she's an author, and an expert in Black women's leadership. And she says it isn't just about their strength and perseverance, it's about how consistently they show up and fight for the common good. We're going to learn more about her body of work, her book, and also get her hot take on some of the biggest trending headlines today. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
The station you turn to when you had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know that 1 in 6 African American men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer? This month, every time you purchase Gillette's family of products, they'll donate to support Movember. Whether you're looking for Gillette's Best Shave, a regimen to help prevent new shave irritation and bumps, or award-winning beard care products, every Gillette purchase can make a difference in the fight against prostate cancer. Visit pggoodeveryday.com/Movember for details. Exclusions apply.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part, they accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right. So we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Bad Ash Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm so delighted to welcome our next guest, Dr. Mena Pratt. Dr. Mena Pratt, thank you so much for joining us. You are an extraordinary leader. For people who don't know, you're Vice President of Strategic Affairs and Diversity and a professor of education at Virginia Tech, the author of 4 books on race, gender, and diversity. And you're here to talk about Black Wild Girl. Black Wild Girl. What's that? What's that? Black Wild Girl. It's your book. And it's a writer's journey to take back her superpower. Tell us about this extraordinary book that you've written for us.
Thank you. I just want to first thank you for hosting me and for this conversation. I want to recognize your book. I'm excited to read it. Talked about going to Africa. I'm Sierra Leonean American, so it's in my blood, the continent. This past year, I was in Uganda and Ethiopia and Benin and Senegal. So I've just got back really from a year of travel in Africa. So congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
So Black Wild Girl. So I have journaled since I was 8 years old. And in 2019, I felt a calling from the journals to look at them and to tell their story. And so I took boxes of journals to a special retreat center in Nashville that I had found when I was going to school at Vanderbilt. And the retreat center had a basement apartment that I was renting out. And there were 4 single beds in the room. And I laid the journals out across 3 of the beds, and I slept in the 4th bed. And for 3 weeks, I would just take a journal every morning, try to find meaningful wisdom. And at the end of 3 weeks, I had a very rough draft of the book. And so it's basically my journey from Black girlhood to Black womanhood in America as a daughter of a Sierra Leonean. My father was born in Sierra Leone, and my mother was born in rural Texas, grew up picking cotton before she became a college professor. So it's that journey coming up from those 2 parents. My father had a PhD in nuclear physics in the 1960s from Carnegie Mellon University. And so it's that dynamic of being a child raised by 2 highly educated parents in the 1960s, 70s, just outside of some of the civil rights movement, but still part of the very racist America. And their attempts to make a way for me in the world.
I mean, that's so beautiful. As I hear you share your story, I am reminded of my own story and the story of so many of us who are multi-heritage. My father was born and raised in Accra, Ghana, and he met my mom, who's Black American, who grew up in Florida. They met at a historical Black college, Texas College in Tyler, Texas. And many years later, I was, born in California, and so I'm loving just sort of the parallels in our stories.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about your process, just sort of author to author.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our process. I'm just captivated at the fact that you've kept a journal since you were 8 years old. Yes. I mean, the next time I'm feeling too tired to write in my journal, I'm you. I got a lot. I got a lot to make up for if you started writing your journal at 8 years old. Talk to us about writing in your journal as sort of a daily practice, and dare I say, even as a spiritual practice. It sounds like.
Very much so. Before I answer that, I want to share that my mom went to Jarvis Christian College in Texas. Yes, she did.
You my long lost cousin or something?
We might be. Yes. So I have found journaling to be a very deep and personal process. And so when I went through the journals, what surprised me was the wisdom that was there, that almost just came forth from writing. I wasn't trying to write something wise. I was just trying to process life. Mm-hmm. I just feel like as women in particular, people of color, women of color in particular, our lives are just so complex. I mean, there's issues of racism, sexism, patriarchy, all these dynamics that we are daily facing, and we internalize so much. And for me, this writing has become a practice of survival. let me just put it that way. It's survival. It's a way to go through life daily. I don't journal every day, but I journal often to process what has happened, to get the anger out. Because some days I'll just write, I'm angry. I'm still very angry. And I am still very angry. Or it'll be like, why did I eat that Big Mac? I really shouldn't. So sometimes it's not deep.
Yeah.
But there are entries that are profoundly full of wisdom and insight, not only about my life, but about the world and about society and about the things we don't talk about. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about the challenge of marriage and what does falling in love mean? And what does marriage mean and the sacrifice? What does raising kids mean? And what do you fight for with your partner for your kids? What do you let go? And like, okay, I was like, my kids are going to prom. And the husband's like, I don't think so. I'm like, yes, they are. So it's those dynamics that I needed to process. And journaling has provided that.
Did the kids end up going to prom?
Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. My husband at the time was Bahamian. And so that was another cultural dynamic about how he understood white America
Mhm.
in white society and white culture. And this prom was kind of a cultural white thing in his mind. It's like, why do the kids need that? Why do they need to sleep over? They got a bed. Why do they need to sleep in someone else's house? I'm like, this like American culture that you're wanting your kids not to be the outsider. I mean, I was the outsider in my own life, and I didn't want my kids to be the outsider.
Speaking of, understanding white America,
Yeah.
I can't help but ask you this question.
Okay.
What's your journal entry look like the day after the election?
I didn't write one. I didn't write one the day after. I was really in shock.
Mhm.
It was like this real numbness, and some folks who have, were processing talk about the numbness.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't want to believe what I had to believe,
Mhm.
and it took me.
And what was that?
That she wasn't that she didn't win. I didn't want to believe that. I
Mhm.
didn't want to believe, and for me, it wasn't necessarily this dichotomy of Republican and Democrat. It wasn't that. I mean, I think each party has their own strengths and ways of thinking, and I didn't want to sort of be a bipolar, it's either this or that kind of person, but it was the character. It was the issue of character that really just, when I think about, what America should represent and all of that, the character issue and integrity and some core values just are not present. And so when I finally started to journal, I'm still working on what I'm wanting to be a letter to Black women. So I write blog posts, and in fact, my last blog post was about Mary McLeod Bethune, and a book I had just finished reading. But I'm working on a letter to Black women, just sort of trying to not be. I mean, we're not monolithic. Black women are not, but sort of taking some of the thoughts and ideas that I have and trying to put it out into the world as a love letter to us.
Mhm. I mean, speaking of a love letter, I think there are a number of Black women out there that could use a love letter right about now, and one of those Black women may be Vice President Kamala Harris herself. I'm curious of what you make of some of the more recent headlines that we've seen. I'm thinking about a headline I just saw recently in the New York Times that read how Kamala Harris burned through $1.5 billion in 15 weeks. The subheadline, her frenzied spending has led to second guessing among some Democrats and questions as she pressed for more cash since the election. And, I can't take my eyes off of the tone in which some of these articles are being written, seemingly with a contempt that we don't have for candidates who may be similarly situated. Now, granted, yes, she's raised more money in a shorter period of time than any candidate in history, right? But she's not the first candidate to end their campaign, that campaign being in debt. She's not the first candidate where some of the expenditures during the campaign may be called into question. She's not the first campaign, to pay for production services, for celebrities to show up and do their thing, right? She's not the first, she won't be the last, but there is a seeming contempt in not just some of these headlines and subheadlines, but the content of some of these recent articles. And it seems to me that it's a contempt that's not, it's a contempt that's familiar, right? Take Kamala Harris out of it. I think there are a lot of Black executives that find themselves walking a tightrope for fear of if something goes wrong, right? These headlines stick on them in ways that they don't stick on their white counterparts, and certainly not white men. But what say you, Dr. Pratt?
He said, what say you? Well, there is this kind of vilification of women, Black women, in the media in many ways. I mean, I grew up playing professional tennis, deep love and admiration for Serena Williams. But we look at her journey and the way she was vilified by the media. We look at Claudine Gay. I mean, I wrote a blog post after she stepped down. There was such love among Black women, just like celebration for her. the way she was castigated in the media. And I think there's always been sort of these differential standards. I mean, my parents said you got to work twice as hard. It's like you got to do more. And I remember recently I was at a conference and there was another Black male journalist talking about the election. And he said, what's not talked about is the racism and sexism of the Democratic Party towards Kamala. And people don't mention that often, but when you take some time, was his argument, take some time to look at her experience as vice president. Felt like there was a lot of marginalization of her early on, sort of silencing, that she really didn't have visibility and platform that maybe she should have had as vice president. And so the fact that there was a groundswell of support, largely by Black women, for a woman that, they identified with, there was still not support by many others.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that there would be this attack against her.
Dr. Pratt, I want you to hold that thought. When we come forward, I want to dig even deeper into this conversation and also deeper into your new book, Black Wild Girl. Can you believe Dr. Pratt has been keeping journals since she was 8 years old? And it is that practice that has helped to birth this beautiful book with this beautiful cover, this beautiful soul and author, Dr. Pratt. More with Dr. Mena Pratt. When we come forward, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know from BIN News. Rapper NBA Youngboy pled guilty to his role in a drug ring posing as a doctor to obtain codeine. The plea avoids jail time as he's expected to serve a federal sentence for gun charges. Former Columbus, Ohio police officer Adam Coy, recently convicted of murdering Andre Hill, an unarmed Black man in 2020, is requesting a new trial. Coy's defense attorneys filed the motion ahead of his sentencing set for next Monday. A man is agreeing to a $50,000 settlement of a lawsuit that accuses a Wilmar, Minnesota police officer of arresting him based on race. Derek Gilbert sued Officer Christopher Flatten and the city on allegations he was illegally arrested in 2022. The American Liberties Union calls the arrest a walking while Black case. And 39 of the 43 escaped monkeys from a South Carolina research facility have been recaptured. Alpha Genesis reports the animals returned to humane traps and are in good health. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Shop early, save big all month long during Black Friday buildup at Lowe's. Get a free Select tool when you buy a Select battery or combo kit, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 11/7 to 11/20. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Exciting game last night at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers held on for a 102-99 win over Golden State. The game featured the top 2 3-point shooters in NBA history, Golden State's Steph Curry and James Harden of the Clippers. Curry and Harden combined to make 8 of 21 threes. Curry finished with a game-high 26 points. Norman Powell led the Clippers with 23. The Clippers are 5-4 at home after an 0-4 start. The Lakers are back in action tonight at Crypto.com. They face Utah with a 5-game winning streak. Tip-off time tonight is 7:30. The SWAC conference gave 1-game suspensions to 16 football players at Jackson State and Alabama State for their involvement in a post-game brawl Saturday in Montgomery. 7 players from Jackson State and 9 from Alabama State were disciplined. The conference also fined both HBCU schools $25,000. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Medicare open enrollment is here, and it's a time you can make changes to your health coverage. Yet, watch out for enrollment and marketing scams. Remember, Medicare will neither call you nor solicit your business. Guard your card. Never give out your Medicare number to strangers. Unsolicited calls, door-to-door visits, and emails are prohibited. Take your time. Don't feel pressured to make a quick decision. Report scams to our California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors.
Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and really enjoying this conversation with Dr. Minna Pratt. She is a scholar, activist. She's an academic advocate. She's author of Black Wild Girl. You've got to go pick up this book that has been many moons in the making. I'm still stuck on the fact that Dr. Pratt has been keeping a journal since she was 8 years old. If you have that kind of discipline, what can't you do?
Well, when your father's a nuclear physicist, that sort of creates a whole nother lifestyle expectation.
I get it. You know, your dad's a nuclear physicist. My dad was an environmental chemist.
Okay.
Right. And I think it's something about being raised by a parent that has a deep belief in the scientific method. Right.
Yes.
Has a deep belief in the Socratic method, especially when you do something you ain't got no business doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. I think there's some wisdom in that. But there's a lot of wisdom in what you were sharing before we went to break, where we were talking about some of these headlines that we're seeing related to Vice President Harris and the spending of the campaign, and people basically doing the typical Monday morning quarterbacking that they do after any election. But I just noticed in some of these headlines, I detected just sort of a silent contempt. There's a little bit more heat on it than I've seen with other candidates, particularly white men. Where they too may end up in debt at the end of their campaigns. They too may do a lot of the things that VP Harris's campaign did in pursuit of the presidency. But let's zoom out from VP Harris for a second, because Black Wild Girls is a book that is a love letter to Black women at large. And so talk to us about, what your intention was in producing this book, and at a time like this, what you hope, Black women inside and outside of public office and in every industry and no industry, what you hope they get out of this book.
Sure. So the book is called A Writer's Journey to Take Back Her Superpower, the subtitle. And I want to share a little bit about the context for that. So, a lot of times parents tell us stories when we're little people that we can't remember because we're little people. But my little people story that my parents told me is that I was a little girl, maybe 5 years old, and I was misbehaving and acting. I write in the book that I was acting like a Black wild girl should and must be in the world. And sassy, with attitude. And my father got angry. And I write that he shouted so loud that it almost shattered my soul. And he said, "Who do you think you are?" And my answer was Queen of Sheba. And I said, this story was told to me throughout my entire life, accompanied by hearty, and maybe even haughty laughter. Because why would a little girl say she's Queen of Sheba? And my argument is that really Black girls who know their power and they share it, we're like shushed and hushed in the world and sort of silenced. And we have to do something and undertake journeys, kind of underground initiation journeys, to find that voice and that power that the world silenced. And so this book is really not only, because when I wrote my journals, it was for myself. It wasn't for the world to see my private thoughts. I had to summon a lot of courage to put it out in the world. But I didn't want it to be sort of a voyeuristic experience where people like, ooh, let me read this woman's journals. But like I've shared my journals, and the book includes a companion journal. And the book is divided into 12 initiation stages.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of each stage, there are reflection questions. And so the companion journal has these reflection questions and the opportunity for anyone to start to journal and reflect on their own lives.
Wow. So for folks who purchased the book Black Wild Girl, and I assume they can go to Amazon, any online bookstore.
Yes.
Mahogany Books. Shout
Yes.
out Mahogany Books. So people can go and pick up not just the book, but it comes with a companion journal,
Yes.
right? I mean, I just love how you're taking this practice that has clearly served you well in your life, professionally, spiritually, and otherwise, and you have now gifted it to the world through this great book. I've got to ask you, do you consider Kamala Harris a Black wild girl?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. What I started doing in my mind is I would see like an amazing Black woman, like Coco Gauff, for example, or, Taylor Townsend. I mean, grew up playing tennis, I like sort of into tennis women, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a Black wild girl. I would see another woman, Viola Davis. Like I read her autobiography. I'm like, love that. She's a Black wild girl. Nikki Giovanni, she wrote a blurb for the book. It's like, oh, she's definitely a Black wild girl. Right. And I just think there's like something sassy and just, strong and confident and genuine and authentic about Kamala. Speaking her mind in a very difficult, complicated space that Black women often don't have voice, and putting her voice out there. I mean, yes, it's sad and disappointing that she lost, but it's like fabulous that she jumped in the race, that she conducted a marvelous campaign for 100 days, sort of mobilized a lot of people. And, we'll be fine. As people will be fine. We'll move on, get back into the, work of activism. It's not a one-time thing. It's a lifetime of work. But yeah, I consider her a Black wild girl. Definitely.
Wow. And I don't know if Vice President Harris is listening today, but if she was listening to this show today, what do you really want her to know, pulling from the ethos that you've created in this new book, Black Wild Girl?
I think, I know, I feel like she knows it already. She knows her power. She would not have made the decision to step up into the void if she didn't know her power. And losing an election is not a reflection of her power, of her strength, of her wisdom, of her courage, of the essence of who she is. And so it's like, girl, you still got it going on. I mean, that's the message. You still got it going on, still a role model for many, and still, tons of ways to make impact and to make a difference. And, she'll figure that out, whatever is next for her. But yes, you still got it going on.
All right, we heard it from the source right here. You still got it going on. Dr. Pratt, you got to tell us, where can people go to not just pick up this book, but I understand you have some really cool merchandise as well.
Yes, I do. So I have, my website is menapratt.com, and I try to at least monthly write what I'm hoping is a very thoughtful blog post about things going on in the world and in society. And then I have blackwildgirl.com is my website with some very cool merch. In fact, I have this sweatshirt. Yes, right there, Black Wild Girl. And I had this sweatshirt, and I was walking on a plane, and there were two Black women flight attendants, and they're like, "Where did you get that shirt?" I'm like, "Well, it's mine. It's my book. It's Black Wild Girl." And they're like, "Where can I get it?" And right there, they texted blackwildgirl.com into their phones to look up. Right. And then the other day, a few days ago, I was in a conference in Detroit, the National Women's Studies Association conference. And I was sitting at this great soul food restaurant called Fixin's in Detroit. And this Black man was sitting next to me, and I had a Black Wild Girl shirt on. And he's like, he said, "This is Christmas season. I'm starting my Christmas shopping." And one of the shirts is a Black Wild Girl dad shirt. And he's like, "I've got daughters." He's like, and it's a t-shirt. And he said, "Can I get a Black Wild Girl sweatshirt?" I'm like, "Yep, my person is on it. We're going to design a Black Wild Girl sweatshirt, dad sweatshirt, so you can get it." So there's a Black Wild Girl dad. It's like, I'm a dad and my daughter's a Black Wild Girl right there. That's coming up, the yellow shirt. There's a Black Wild Girl mom shirt. So it's a fun place. I mean, to get something for someone, a woman that you care about, that you admire, that you can affirm in the world. Definitely.
That's incredible. That's incredible. In our final minute before we let you go, Dr. Pratt, you are a leader in many places, including academia. And we know that there are a lot of people that are feeling the squeeze with this sort of lurch to the right politically in this country. Academic freedom is in question. What is your message to Black people in academia, some of which may be bracing themselves, others who might be thinking about leaving academia because of some of the pending challenges to academic freedom? What's your message to them?
Well, I have two messages. One, I have a new book project out. It's called Dear Higher Education, Letters from the Social Justice Mountain. And it's an open access platform from the University of Minnesota Library. So I'm saying, write your letter to higher ed. We have 23 amazing letters out already for the first volume, and we're starting the second volume. So, that's an opportunity to sort of share how you're feeling at the moment. The other thing is that I'm the founder of a conference called Faculty Women of Color in the Academy, FWCA. And it's in its 13th year, and it brings together 600 to 700 women of color in higher education every year. And it's the place to connect, support, and empower. It's kind of like, you got this, girl. You can keep at it. You're not alone. There's a community of us. You can make it. And what we do, in addition to that conference, it's in April every year in DC, we have quarterly healing hours. So the next healing hour is December 4th. It's an hour. And it's just like, let's find our joy, you know, because it's like sometimes we get so beaten down by the tough stuff, but there's still like a lot of wonderful things in the world, love and beauty and kindness and community. And so that healing hour is sort of every couple of months, we do a healing hour to bring women into the community, just to encourage one another. So that's what I would say. Dear Higher Education, that's the conference, exactly. So writing letters to Dear Higher Education, that book project, and then think about attending the conference. Definitely.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I hope you promise to come back again soon.
I would be honored to do so. Thank you.
I would be honored to have you. Everyone's got to go out and purchase this book. This is a great holiday gift, but even more importantly, it's a great self-care gift, especially considering the times we're living in now. It's called Black Wild Girl, a writer's journey to take back her superpower. Dr. Minna Pratt, our thanks to you. Please come back again soon.
Thank you.
You've been listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Add confidence to every holiday adventure and get it done with a rugged and capable Chevy truck or SUV. Find your red tag. Get 0% APR financing for 36 months on select popular Chevy models when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Offer available on all 2025 Equinox and 2024 Silverado, Equinox EV, Blazer EV, and Silverado EV models. Monthly payment is $2,860 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 22.2%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take me to delivery by 12/2/24.
Did you know that streaming music, ebooks, audiobooks, movies, and more is available for free from the Los Angeles Public Library? With your library card, you can access the latest music and movies, audiobooks and ebooks, graphic novels, comic books, magazines, and more. If you don't have a library card and live in the city of Los Angeles, you can get a digital card online for free. Check it out at lapl.org/emedia. That's lapl.org/emedia.
If you have asthma, you know that there are certain things that can set off your asthma symptoms. These things are called triggers, and patients with severe asthma have an average of 8 triggers. It could be pollen, dust, pollution, colds, viruses, smoke, or stress. If you know your symptoms, you have already taken the first step to managing your asthma. The next step is to write your triggers down in a notebook or journal and record your symptoms when you come across those triggers. This will give your healthcare provider valuable information about what you can do to help manage your triggers. By understanding your triggers and writing them down, you are on your way to taking back control of your lung health. Visit luma-edu.com for more guidance. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Here's another great reason to use the United States Postal Service this season. Your boxes are wrapped and the gifts are in. Our employees are ready. Let the holiday ride begin. Let's start with the price. It's easy to manage when you ship with the reliable USPS Ground Advantage. In just a few days, it's sure to arrive. We're working nonstop to keep the spirit alive. USPS Ground Advantage, the affordable and reliable shipping solution for the holidays. Visit USPS.com/advantage.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Lots of conversation afoot related to the election and more importantly, the cabinet picks of President-elect Trump. Just while we've been on the air, NBC News reporting that Trump has picked TV personality and former Senate candidate Mehmet Oz to run Medicare and Medicaid agency. That's right. President-elect Trump said just today he'll nominate Mehmet Oz, a former Pennsylvania Senate candidate and TV doctor, to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, saying, quote, he's an eminent physician, heart surgeon, inventor, and world-class communicator who's been at the forefront of healthy living for decades. And he added that Oz would work alongside Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an anti-vaccine activist who Trump wants to head the Department of Health and Human Services to take on the illness industrial complex, as he calls it. And so Dr. Mehmet Oz being selected by President-elect Trump to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. You know, look, are we surprised that a reality TV president has chosen not one, but at this count, I think 2 TV personalities? His pick for the Secretary of Defense is a Fox News host. And now we have Dr. Oz here. It tracks. That's all I'm saying. It tracks. It tracks. You know what else tracks? Trump's threats of mass deportation, leading to some really hard discussions for families, particularly as we head into the holiday season. NPR reporting that throughout the presidential campaign season, immigration was largely framed as an American citizens versus immigrant issue, but for approximately 11 million American citizens who live in families with mixed immigration status, mass deportations could be devastating. Devastating. Winnie Chen, Senior Director of Community and Civic Engagement at the nonprofit New York Immigrant Coalition, says, quotes, often folks fixate on the number of undocumented immigrants in the country, but deportation is not just their lives at stake. Immigrant rights are American rights. American rights. No one's ever told them what to do, if, something crazy happens. So, for example, there's someone who says, Ray Rivas says, I can tell you from firsthand experience, a deportation is the worst thing that can happen to your family, saying that they wouldn't want their kids going through something like that. You see, when Reyes Rivas was 19 during the Obama administration, her mother got deported. Suddenly, he was a teenager in charge of his 13-year-old brother. And no one had ever told him what to do if this happens. He says it was emotionally and financially devastating. And these days, he works in a cell phone repair business and as an immigrant advocate. He says that he's been warning immigrant communities that, quotes, part 2 of the Trump administration is going to be something that we haven't seen before. Get to know your rights. Get ready. Talk to your kids. Look into how you're going to handle being detained or being deported. Reyes Rivas has DACA, which is a temporary protection against deportation for some people brought to the U.S. as undocumented children. This program was created by the Obama administration and is facing legal challenges in courts. The incoming Trump administration could end the program. And Ray Rivas might find himself undocumented again. He says he can't find it in his heart to explain the potential situation to their children. And for many mixed status families, this conversation is nothing new. It's been happening for an entire lifetime. An entire lifetime. And so this ain't nothing to play with. and I say this, as the son of an immigrant. For folks who are less familiar, my father immigrated to the United States at the age of 19 from Ghana. Went to school here in the United States. That's where he met my mom, who's Black American. And my mom just reminded me recently that, it wasn't until 1998 where my father officially became a citizen. Always very engaged in, politics. And as a kid, took me to public lectures at UC Berkeley, and very, 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 very engaged. But it wasn't until 1998 where he became a citizen and entitled to all the rights and privileges of citizens. And so mixed status families come in all different shapes and forms, and people of all different backgrounds. And if you haven't already, you should have a conversation with your family in the event that something happens. You get deported, they get deported. What happens to your kids? What happens to your home? What happens to your pets? What happens? We had Alan Orr right here on this show, immigration expert, who was providing this explicit advice. And we just want to double click on that today. And we will continue to do that and stay on the lookout in the days ahead. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village, helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and you've been listening to and streaming a More